The temperature is rising in the Bay Area, folks. A brand new piece of viral footage catches Draymond Green getting up in Stephen Curry's face behind the scenes, and the internet is absolutely losing its mind right now. Before we dig in, hit that subscribe button. Whispers are circulating that the Golden State front office heavily weighed shipping Green out during the trade window, while his playing time dwindles and management secretly drafts a blueprint for a future without their veteran enforcer. Stick around as we unpack every single layer of this spicy situation to uncover the truth about the current dynamic between the legendary duo. To kick things off, let us pull back the curtain on that locker room chaos from February 28th, 2026. When the Dubs welcomed the Los Angeles Lakers to the Chase Center, the matchup concluded as an absolute massacre, a 129-101 defeat for the home squad. Honestly, it was a completely one-sided affair from the jump. The purple and gold tore Golden State apart immediately, establishing a commanding 65-47 advantage by the intermission. Luka Doncic threw himself a phenomenal 27th birthday party by racking up 26 points, dishing 8 assists, and grabbing 6 boards. Meanwhile, LeBron James pitched in 22 points, shooting a highly effective 7 of 13 from the floor and draining 4 of 6 attempts from deep. Golden State desperately needed their sharpshooter as Stephen Curry sat out his 10th straight contest, nursing a case of runner's knee, which painfully showed up on the scoreboard, missing their franchise cornerstone, as well as Jimmy Butler, whose year ended abruptly due to a torn ACL. The roster was completely out of gas. Yet, right in the middle of that thrashing, an incident unfolded that transformed a thoroughly boring beatdown into arguably the most heavily debated spectacle of the entire basketball calendar. You could practically cut the tension on the home bench with a knife, seeing as their offensive sets completely froze up and sloppy turnovers piled up. Soon enough, a fan in the stands uploaded a clip to social networks capturing Draymond Green, airing out his massive grievances, aggressively barking at the younger guys on the roster right there by the bench throughout a break in the action. Now, if you know the league, you know that it's just classic Draymond behavior. The guy thrives on volume. He gets incredibly passionate. He absolutely roars at guys. That fiery persona has defined his professional career for more than 10 years. However, the twist that separates this particular outburst from countless previous meltdowns was Stephen Curry's reaction in the background. If you are enjoying the breakdown so far, drop a like. The footage features the injured point guard decked out in casual attire, just standing there with both hands shoved deep inside his pockets, constantly averting his gaze, rubbing his scalp, and giving major side-eye while his teammate unleashed a furious tirade on the home floor. This particular video found its way onto the platform X via the user Full Court Pass, accompanied by the text, Steph Curry observing Draymond Green throughout a Golden State huddle, capping it off with an eyeball emoji. That post blew up instantly, racking up 1.7 million impressions alongside 26,000 likes, completely igniting a debate that transcended simple hoops analysis. Viewers were hyper-analyzing the superstar's posture and drawing deep conclusions from it. One user commented, "Steph is completely exhausted by Draymond's antics," tossing in a chuckle emoji for good measure. A different prominent basketball page chimed in saying, "Curry straight up despises him." Meanwhile, a separate profile took the narrative a step past that, suggesting the legendary shooter is eagerly counting down the days until management finally kicks the forward to the curb. Even though we lack concrete proof of any actual rift between the iconic duo who secured 4 championship rings side by side, the internet quickly forced their own theories of resentment onto the sideline star. Honestly, considering the chaotic cloud hovering over the franchise's current campaign, you can totally see why tempers feel incredibly short lately. Truthfully, that isolated piece of media packed enough punch to dominate the headlines all week. Yet, the underlying storyline is what caused the entire situation to explode, simply because this blow-up did not occur inside some isolated bubble. Long before that humiliating loss to Los Angeles, dark clouds were already gathering regarding the veterans' longevity in the Bay. Roster swap gossip was rampant. Insiders were steadily dropping articles covering his fading on-court impact in reduced minutes. Plus, pundits heavily debated whether the organization essentially had to cut ties with him just to salvage the remaining prime years of Stephen Curry's spectacular run. So, justified or not, That brief sideline interaction morphed into the ultimate visual representation of their crumbling dynasty. Ultimately, it was the chaotic deadline maneuvers that laid the groundwork for this current circus. Let us dial the clock back a bit. Prior to the February 5th, 2026 cutoff date, an unprecedented scenario unfolded that the fiery forward had never experienced throughout his entire tenure with the squad. Sure, there were instances in the past where he toyed with the idea of walking away to test the open market, yet this marked the very first occasion where management openly told him he was acting as a bargaining chip in pending negotiations. The front office was actively hunting for a massive, landscape-shifting deal. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep up with all these crazy rumors. Official insiders reported he would stay put beyond Thursday's buzzer, according to ESPN. Still, the defensive anchor was prominently featured in their aggressive negotiation packages, pitched directly to the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for Giannis Antetokounmpo, though those discussions never really caught fire. Ultimately, Golden State walked away feeling like Milwaukee was merely bluffing and had zero intention of shipping out the Greek freak. Consequently, the Dubs changed direction, engineering a massive swap with the Atlanta Hawks to snag big man Kristaps Porzingis, parting ways with Jonathan Kuminga alongside Buddy Hield to seal the deal. Even so, that backup plan could not wash away the harsh reality. For the absolute first time, the former Defensive Player of the Year realized he was completely expendable. Did the Golden State dynasty just crack? Welcome back, Hoops fans. Hit that subscribe button because we have massive drama brewing in the Bay. The trade deadline hit Draymond Green hard, and he admitted the final moments were completely nerve-wracking. However, his mindset is strictly about moving straight ahead. He confessed to the press that experiencing such a bizarre 24 hours isn't exactly a feeling he wants to become a regular thing. The entire locker room was basically holding their breath until the clock ran out. To make matters worse, the franchise ended up shipping off a couple of players. He was really close with actually make that 3 close friends gone in a flash. Yet, the wildest part of this whole saga goes much deeper than just losing teammates. Even before the buzzer sounded on the trade window, the defensive anchor openly addressed the rumors surrounding his own departure, dropping some incredibly revealing hints. Following a rough defeat against the Philadelphia 76ers on Tuesday, he pointed out his massive 13.5-year tenure with the organization. For context, that kind of loyalty beats out roughly 98% of the current league. Not bad for a kid out of Saginaw, Michigan, right? He essentially said that whether his time stops at 13.5 seasons or keeps going, it has been an absolutely legendary ride, completely unbothered by potential fines for swearing about it. To him, the journey was phenomenal regardless of the outcome. Honestly, those are not the words of an athlete who feels perfectly safe in his current role. Instead, it echoes someone actively bracing for a sudden packing of his bags. The simple reality that the veteran was guarding his heart against a trade speaks volumes regarding the absolute chaos happening inside the Warriors front office. Surprisingly, he clarified there was absolutely zero bad blood regarding his name being floated in exchange rumors. Before we dive into the juicy details of what ownership actually said, take a quick second to smash that like button. Green noted that everyone was curious about his emotional reaction to the gossip, wondering if he was furious. His response was a flat no, stressing that if shipping him off benefits the franchise's future, then he completely supports that direction. However, once the frantic deadline settled, basketball insider Brian Windhorst dropped an absolute bombshell that completely rattled the Hoops community. Windhorst pointed out a fascinating shift, suggesting the front office has basically passed the point of no return regarding their star enforcer. The reporter hinted that since a mid-season move didn't materialize, we should fully expect these exact same swap negotiations to catch fire again during the upcoming offseason. Entering the final stretch of his current deal, whether he's used as bait for a megastar like Giannis or shipped elsewhere, it genuinely looks like the writing is on the wall. Plus, the plot thickens considerably when you look at the top brass. Top boss Joe Lacob actually went on record shutting down claims that they actively hawked their veteran core player. Lacob insisted that general manager Mike Dunleavy was 100% accurate in his assessments, noting that high-level executives don't just casually toss around superstar names unless there is a legitimate, heavy-duty motive behind it. The owner claimed they simply didn't gain enough traction on blockbuster packages to start hammering out exact player identities. Furthermore, he emphasized that this player is a fundamental pillar of their history. meaning you absolutely never give up someone of his caliber on a whim. The only way it happens is if their backs are against the wall, the incoming assets are massively valuable, and the roster immediately levels up. Pay close attention to that specific caveat, folks, because the billionaire owner essentially admitted they are more than willing to part ways with their defensive maestro if the ultimate jackpot falls into their laps. That is a far cry from calling a guy strictly off limits. It is a massive loophole. Obviously, a mind as sharp as his clearly reads between those lines. The real mystery we need to solve is who actually picked up the phone first. Moreover, was the legendary Steph Curry secretly pulling strings behind the scenes? To figure out why the Bay Area crew even entertained the thought of ending an era, we need to dive directly into the analytics. Honestly, the mathematics paint a rather grim picture that is becoming impossible to sweep under the rug. Everyone knows his scoring impact has been slowly slipping away over recent years. The four-time All-Star has been hovering around 8.6 points, grabbing 5.6 boards, and dishing 5.6 dimes across 36 matchups next to number 30 during the current campaign. Sure, he remains the critical binding agent for a squad absolutely decimated by medical setbacks recently, logging 8.4 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 5.2 assists on average in broader stretches. However, his famous stopping power is noticeably slipping, and he is currently staring down the absolute worst defensive rating of his entire professional life. At the same time, he is chucking way more shots from beyond the arc, hoisting up deep balls at an unprecedented rate. When an athlete's entire legacy and payday stem from elite disruption and elite court vision, this kind of statistical nosedive raises massive red flags. Head coach Steve Kerr isn't trying to sugarcoat the situation either. Following a brutal 114-101 beatdown by the Clippers, Kerr dropped some eye-opening quotes. He explained that stripping away the surrounding firepower makes the game incredibly aggravating for both the veteran and the entire roster. It creates massive roadblocks when trying to establish any kind of offensive harmony. The mastermind coach mentioned that his star pupil is checking every single box requested of him, maintaining stellar spirits on the sidelines and behind closed doors, yet the internal annoyance is brewing. Dealing with the harsh reality of father time and realizing you simply can't perform the athletic feats you effortlessly pulled off a couple of seasons ago is taking a toll, though he is managing that mental battle quite admirably. If you enjoy these deep dives, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. While those comments seem completely backing at first glance, reading the subtext reveals a much darker truth. His coach is straight up admitting that the former Defensive Player of the Year has lost a significant step. He is pointing a glaring spotlight at the brutal process of getting older, wrapping it up as a graceful transition, which inherently screams that there is a massive problem festering beneath the surface. The evidence is only becoming more undeniable from here on out. The coaching staff has already begun shuffling the deck, stripping away critical minutes from their longtime vocal leader. The legendary forward might have narrowly dodged a mid-season flight out of town, but his untouchable status in those crucial crunch time formations is officially a thing of the past. Welcome back, Hoops fans. Hit that subscribe button because we have massive drama brewing. Barely a week after Golden State decided against trading their legendary defensive stopper, head coach Steve Kerr dropped a truth bomb confessing that the squad is completely out of rhythm. Consequently, he is slashing the veterans' playing time. With Stephen Curry currently watching in street clothes due to a runner's knee, Kerr is entirely reinventing his late-game strategy. Across two of the Dubs' previous three matchups, both resulting in victories, number 23 found himself riding the pine during the critical moments. Instead, seasoned center Al Horford has usurped the fourth quarter duties. Let that sink in for a second. We are talking about the very heartbeat of a dynasty that secured 4 NBA titles being sidelined when the game is on the line. This represents an absolute earthquake in the franchise's foundation. Speaking on 95.7 The Game, Kerr revealed that the two communicate constantly, noting that his player fully comprehends his current career stage and the roster's overall trajectory. The coach mentioned they have shared incredibly productive dialogues regarding the twilight phase of a professional athlete's journey, emphasizing the sheer necessity to evolve and embrace new roles. However, resting their top defender proved disastrous against the Clippers. opening the floodgates for Los Angeles to mount a furious comeback and seize total command throughout the closing 17 minutes of action. Lacking that elite defensive mastery to stifle superstars like Kawhi Leonard, Los Angeles absolutely obliterated the Dubs, outgunning them 53-30 during that near 17-minute window. Herein lies the ultimate catch-22 regarding his usage rate. Now that he is hitting 36 years of age, his court time requires strict management. Therefore, the franchise finds itself trapped in a brutal dilemma. They desperately require his defensive brilliance on the hardwood, yet they simultaneously must preserve his aging legs. The problem? Whenever he takes a breather, the defensive rotation essentially crumbles into dust. Still, pushing him for 40 minutes every single evening is simply no longer viable. Furthermore, his scoring output has taken a noticeable nosedive across recent campaigns, and his legendary defensive stops no longer fully offset the offensive limitations the roster endures whenever he steps onto the floor. This exact friction is the central heartbeat of this brewing storm. It explains perfectly why the front office kicked the tires on dealing him prior to the trade deadline, and why whispers surrounding his eventual departure simply refuse to die down. If you are enjoying this breakdown, please drop a like below. Following that explosive viral video taking over the internet, the enforcer handled the situation exactly as you would expect. He fired up his microphone, took to his podcast, and tackled the controversy straight away with absolute bluntness. During an episode of his signature show, he stated, "I am watching everybody's hot takes claiming, wow, the captain is totally over dealing with this guy." Truthfully, my main takeaway from that footage, combined with the reality that I speak with my point guard every single day, is that he completely echoed my frustrations. We were getting our behinds absolutely kicked. Nobody in their right mind would be grinning or cheering during a beatdown, he elaborated. It is hilarious watching the public attempt to force their personal disdain for me onto my teammate, because frankly, their opinions do not mean a single thing in my world. All right, let us pause for a quick reality check. Viewers can interpret this monologue in two distinct manners. First, you could argue he is speaking absolute facts. The superstar guard was purely furious with the scoreboard, not his longtime teammate. They were trailing by a staggering 28 points. Naturally, he appeared thoroughly disgusted. Any competitor would be. Moreover, the fact that these two are supposedly in daily communication lends significantly more credibility to his defense than some keyboard warrior overanalyzing a 13-second snippet on social media. Conversely, the alternative perspective suggests the forward is simply executing classic public relations spin to control the media damage. The guy commands a massive digital audience. He owns the microphone. He holds the power to paint whatever picture he desires. Naturally, his first instinct is to claim his buddy was completely backing him up. To quote him again, "Honestly, my main takeaway from reviewing that exact clip, combined with our daily private chats, was that we were absolutely sharing the same angry wavelength." The four-time All-Star firmly argued that spectators habitually inject their personal bias against him into these viral moments, blowing things way out of proportion. Here is the brutal truth, though. He is spot on regarding how the internet projects its biases. The veteran insisted his captain had his back, given that both champions were simply seething over the squad's embarrassing showing. Let us be real, the two-time MVP wields more than enough influence to trigger a massive roster shakeup, if he truly wanted his forward gone. Yet, these absolute legends have done nothing but publicly praise one another for well over a decade, which makes the podcaster's defense highly believable. That specific detail truly deserves your attention. For years, rival front offices have phoned in countless trade packages, attempting to poach the former Defensive Player of the Year, yet Golden State's brass has swatted away every single inquiry. Undoubtedly, this loyalty stems directly from the franchise player himself, who cherishes what his teammate brings to the dirty side of the floor. Bottom line, if the greatest shooter alive wanted this man exiled, his bags would have been packed long ago. The front office has spent 10 plus years proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that number 30 calls the absolute shots. He is the entire organization. His requests hold infinitely more gravity than any executive sitting in that boardroom. Therefore, the wild theory that he is secretly plotting to have his enforcer cut, all while grinning for the cameras and firing off encouraging text messages behind closed doors, completely contradicts everything we understand about his genuine character and phenomenal locker room presence. By the way, the public only knows about those private texts because our guy leaked them on his show. Following their thrilling overtime victory over the Houston Rockets, the forward proudly disclosed a confidential message thread between the duo. Smash that subscribe button for more daily hoops updates and let us know your thoughts below. Are the Golden State Warriors secretly imploding, or is the media totally spinning the truth? Hit that subscribe button right now because we have the exclusive scoop. According to Warriors insider Anthony Slater, Steph Curry was blowing up Draymond Green's phone after their latest game. The legendary shooter, sidelined for the last 12 matchups due to a painful right knee injury, absolutely loved watching his squad fight through adversity. Even from the couch, Curry hyped up his guys, shooting Green a message packed to the brim with exclamation points, shouting, "You all really did that." But wait, because the very next text he sent dropped a massive hint about their future, carrying significantly heavier implications. On his podcast, Green revealed that Curry reached out directly to say, "Keep pushing forward. I know things are rough right now, but I swear to you, I am returning to the court soon." Even though the grueling rehabilitation process has benched him since late January, Draymond emphasized that Steph remains completely unfazed and radiates nothing but positive vibes in the locker room. Let us be real. Does that sound anything like a superstar trying to get his longtime teammate cut from the roster? Not at all. That sounds exactly like a loyal brother fiercely defending his day one partner. Draymond hammered this exact point home regarding Curry's elite mindset on his recent broadcast. While fans and pundits were loudly demanding the Warriors bench Curry for the rest of the year, Green fired back, reminding everyone that Steph fought tooth and nail to return during a brutal campaign where they barely scraped together 15 wins. So, speaking from direct experience, Green guaranteed that number 30 is not the type to just throw in the towel and call it quits early, because that simply goes against his DNA. The message is crystal clear. Steph is gearing up for a comeback. He completely backs Draymond, and the two veterans remain totally synced up. And honestly, guys, if you love this inside access, make sure to smash that like button. All the receipts prove their bond is rock solid, but does this actually guarantee that Green's future in the Bay Area is safe and secure? Absolutely not. Because we all know there is a massive divide between what the greatest shooter of all time personally desires and the harsh business decisions the front office might execute to protect the franchise. This spicy dynamic perfectly sets up the most intriguing piece of our entire mystery today. When we analyze all the moving parts, here is the undisputed truth. You might have seen clickbait titles screaming that Draymond viciously confronted Curry for plotting to kick him off the team. However, after investigating every single angle from the highly circulated timeout footage and chaotic trade deadline rumors to his dipping statistics, podcast clapbacks, and leaked text messages, it becomes incredibly obvious that those wild accusations hold absolutely zero weight. The reality of the situation is quite simple. Green directly tackled a heavily scrutinized video showing Curry glaring at him during a crucial huddle. Using his platform, Draymond aggressively shut down the ridiculous narrative that his superstar captain was secretly sick and tired of his antics. He clarified that they chat constantly, confirming that Curry actually co-signed the exact intense points Green was passionately making during his sideline explosion. When you look at the cold hard facts, from private texts to their upbeat locker room vibes, everything proves these two legends are still tight as ever. There was zero beef, and Curry definitely never plotted to have Green released. However, and if you are still watching, drop a comment below with your thoughts. This is the crucial detail everyone must focus on. The growing doubts surrounding Green's longevity in Golden State are incredibly valid. These rumors are not just made up clickbait. They go way beyond simple fan theories. The brass out in San Francisco has shown their hand, proving through behind the scenes moves that they are absolutely open to shipping Green out of town. Ultimately, the defensive anchor does control his own destiny after this current campaign, since the seasoned veteran holds a lucrative $27.7 million player option for the 2026 to 2027 season. A highly respected team source strongly believes Green will activate that massive extension, which ironically only skyrockets the chances of him being dealt. signaling that we might be witnessing the absolute final chapter of the 36-year-old enforcer's iconic run in the Bay. During a recent guest appearance on the Ryan Russillo broadcast, top basketball analyst Anthony Slater openly cast doubt on the power forward sticking around past the summer. He noted that everyone is deeply curious about Draymond's next steps, adding that he fully anticipates the star taking the guaranteed money. Slater revealed that despite the organization aggressively denying the reports, the front office essentially dangled him as available bait for the perfect blockbuster package at the trade cutoff. In fact, the analyst suggested that if the Warriors decide to hunt down a megastar like Giannis Antetokounmpo in the offseason, Green activating his massive contract could ironically become a huge blessing, giving the front office the perfect financial puzzle piece to match salaries in a massive swap. Yet, even if a jaw-dropping Antetokounmpo blockbuster falls through, watching Green pack his bags feels like a total certainty if he chooses to secure the bag instead of opting out to sign a much cheaper, cap-saving extension. So yes, Golden State is extremely likely to use his hefty contract as premium trade bait in the upcoming months. That is the cold, hard truth of the NBA. However, the management team has officially claimed they want him to retire in their jersey. General manager Mike Dunleavy even stated that it is basically impossible to imagine a roster lacking Steph, missing Draymond, or playing without coach Steve Kerr on the sidelines. He insisted those scenarios never cross his mind, but quickly pivoted, adding that in the cutthroat business of basketball, providing absolute certainty is essentially impossible. Still, he emphasized they desperately want their defensive anchor to stick around, hoping he hangs up his sneakers in San Francisco right alongside their MVP point guard, confidently stating he sees zero reasons why a return would fail. But listen closely, folks, because that is classic executive doublespeak. Claiming it is impossible to guarantee his return is an absolute masterclass in PR. It is miles away from firmly declaring he will, without a doubt, remain on the squad. This is simply a savvy executive politely keeping their options wide open without completely disrespecting a franchise legend. Building on that, a fascinating piece published by The Athletic highlighted that Green is razor sharp and reads the room way better than his critics realize. He is fully aware that this current campaign could very well be his swan song with the dynasty, a feeling heavily amplified by the chaotic whispers surrounding the recent trade buzzer. Honestly, the fiery forward totally gets the bigger picture. He is far from clueless, having navigated the ruthless waters of this association for over 13 years. He understands the brutal nature of the sport, witnessing countless friends get shipped off, and painfully watching Splash brother Klay Thompson walk out the door. Seeing his legendary co-star leave town recently hit hard, and you can bet everything that Curry is desperate to hold on to his final trusted partner from their golden championship era. Is the golden era officially over in the Bay? Buckle up, basketball fans, because Golden State is staring down the absolute biggest offseason of this entire generation. With Stephen Curry heading into the very last season of his current deal, the front office is feeling astronomical heat to surround him with a squad genuinely capable of making a legitimate title run. Before we dive deep into this crazy situation, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe for all your daily hoops updates. Facing incredibly tight salary cap restrictions, the Dubs must walk a treacherous financial tightrope. To pull off a miracle, the front office literally has zero margin for error. Without a doubt, the most pivotal and potentially explosive choice revolves around the player option belonging to Draymond Green. Looking at it strictly from a business angle, you could definitely argue it is time to part ways, regardless of how deeply that stings nostalgically. Remember, right before the highly anticipated holiday showdown against the Dallas Mavericks, head coach Steve Kerr openly labeled his own squad a declining empire. Interestingly enough, the defensive anchor himself did not push back on that brutally honest evaluation. Speaking out on his own audio show, Green admitted that looking at the cold hard facts, you have to accept reality. Legendary runs eventually come to a close. The goal is simply to stretch that window out to the absolute limit. You scrap and claw to lay down as many bricks as possible before the clock runs out. But here is the massive catch. The legendary forward pointed out they are not done just yet. They are currently in the process of declining. That's specific. Nuance is everything. Dropping, but not dead. still throwing punches, still grinding, still alive. Right after a gritty victory over Houston, the veteran enforcer emphasized that building a legendary culture requires absolute dogs, and he firmly believes the Bay Area squad still embodies that DNA. They possess an elite pedigree with impossibly high expectations. Following that exact same gritty triumph, the head coach was raving about getting an old-school performance, highlighting the classic defensive intensity, the vocal command, the sheer power, and the elite playmaking. So let us set the record straight right now. The rumor mill claiming Green got into a screaming match with number 30 over rumors of getting cut? Absolute fiction. What actually went down was a heavily circulated video clip during a brutal blowout that got entirely twisted by Twitter trolls, creating a completely fake storyline about locker room toxicity that simply is not real. There is absolutely no bad blood between those two legends. The genuine narrative here is much deeper. It is about a historically great franchise desperately trying to keep the wheels from falling off. It focuses on a 36-year-old veteran coming to terms with his shrinking impact on the hardwood. If you are enjoying this breakdown, do not forget to hit subscribe. This situation highlights a front office torn between honoring their legendary heroes and making cold, calculated business moves. Most importantly, it is the tale of two brothers in arms who have survived more basketball wars than nearly any. Duo in NBA history, purely wanting to ride off into the sunset side by side, even with 2 seasons and $52 million remaining on his massive contract, the defensive anchor is fiercely committed to staying in the Bay. Both superstars are determined to finish their careers sharing the same jersey, regardless of whether that forces them to pass up potentially sweeter deals in other cities. The multi-million-dollar question heading into this summer is whether management will actually honor that wish, or if front office logistics will abruptly sever that iconic bond. However, anybody peddling the ridiculous theory that the greatest shooter of all time is secretly plotting to kick his longtime enforcer to the curb is completely making things up. Literally every single piece of insider info suggests the exact reverse is happening behind closed doors. The point guard is constantly messaging his teammate, swearing he will return to the floor. Meanwhile, the former Defensive Player of the Year is fiercely guarding the yard until his partner heals up. In his own words, as long as the medical staff clears him, the chef is returning. The superstar guard has zero desire to pack it in and quit on the squad. They just need to survive the storm. Honestly, that does not sound like a fractured relationship filled with screaming matches. That sounds exactly like a seasoned veteran willing to go to war for his brother. Over the span of 12 incredible campaigns steering the ship, the legendary coach has guided this unstoppable core to championship glory in 2015, 2017, 2018, and 2022. While famously engineering that historic 2015 through 16 campaign, culminating in a record-smashing 73 victories, 4 majestic parades, an untouchable regular season record, and more than 10 years of pure magic. Before we wrap up, seriously, tap that subscribe button so you never miss a drop. Through all the endless blockbuster trade speculation, the massive dip in production, the sensationalized internet, drama, and the drastically reduced playing time, these legendary cornerstones remain an unbreakable united front. This iconic basketball empire might finally be running on fumes, but the brotherhood, tying these two first ballot Hall of Famers together, that foundation is as rock